All India Radio.
Regional News Unit of All India Radio Chennai presents an interaction with students of International Studies of Women's Christian College Chennai about India's presidency in G20. In conversation with them, our news editor is Joy.
Welcome listeners to the second part of the interaction with the students of International Studies of the Women's Christian College. We were talking about the education working group of G20. We were talking about a lot of difficulties faced by the developing countries in various sectors and how countries are trying to evolve into a unilateral global phenomenon. We are continuing the discussion with a question on startups. Talking about startups, it is quite a new concept which is grabbing the attention of the world. India has more than 90,000 startups according to the latest statistics. So with regard to beginning a startup, how is a startup going to help the youth of the country, which has enormous potential of the youth talents and skills? One aspect of education is to provide employment. In the earlier days, it was after studies, people apply for employment and they get employed. But the concept of employment has changed after the global scenario of COVID and a lot of other developments. So what do you think? How education will help a person to develop a bright future, and also what is to be done with the education as well as the employment market? I need your reflections on this, students.
India has really developed in their technologies right now and with the startups as well. And right now, registered startups, it actually goes more than 40,000. It's a really large number. Almost 21 of them are unicorns, more than a billion. And so India's third largest tech sector hub right now in the world. And we should really focus on start off with the lower rungs, and we can adopt policies from other countries to help develop India and the other G20 nations.
As times are changing in the modern world, technology is the order of the day, and financial technology has come in as a handy help during the season of COVID, where at a global level everything came to a standstill. But India was able to pursue the direction of growth because of financial technology. It was like a changeover from the normal way of life to a tech-dependent life. Everyone who was affected by COVID and who were not affected by COVID started using e-commerce platforms to serve themselves. Coming to the question of using financial technology and the growth of economy itself, what is the future of the world proceeding towards to?
I'm Johanna. So the digital economy agenda is one thing that India is focusing on. I would like to say that we have witnessed a lot of successes with regard to technological databases. Like during the COVID pandemic, we had the CoWIN database that helped us with vaccination drives. And the Aadhaar card is another example of successful digitalization of data. And India has the potential to help other countries, the low income and the middle income countries, to replicate such databases and overcome these issues of the digital divide is what they call it. And right now, even we have workshops happening in India where technological leaders from other countries can come here and learn about these databases so that they can replicate it in their own countries.
Modern day lifestyle demands a comfortable life and use of modern machines which make us comfortable. The use of air conditioner and a lot many other things which are keeping us comfortable, but it doesn't show us how it affects the environment. So coming to the question of climate change and environment, government is bringing a lot of initiatives to protect the environment, and at a global level too, lot of initiatives are being taken by international organizations for the betterment of environment. It also needs a lot of financial assistance to carry out these schemes, and the level of assessment by the developed countries comes into a question by the developing countries. There is a need for a universal sort of adaptation at all levels. What do you think about that?
As comes the scientific developments, there is also a negative reaction to the achievements given by each and every state. When there is such a development, there will be a serious issue going on, causing the carbon footprint of each and every state increasing, and thereby or declining the even more degrading environment has been a hot topic each and everywhere since last 3 decades. It is said that nearly 3 billion people could go and experience chronic water scarcity in the upcoming years. So this environment is one of the most sought about SDGs being listed in the world organizations, and India has a greater part in the development and in the eco-friendly projects taken worldwide. So as a forerunner in the COP26 in 2021, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi has introduced a new project. So this LIFE project has encouraged the G20 members as well as the non-G20 members to contribute individually, sector-wise, as well as government-wise, to contribute towards economical and environmental development throughout. Even though we were not the present chair in 2021, we were the future chair then. We had a contribution in such a scale, which was even recognized by the EU as well as other international organizations. Even in that state, we could contribute more. By being the actual presidency this year, I think we can contribute even more towards the development of global states.
It is India's priority to check on anywhere. You could find that work on green development, on climate financing, and like she said, life, that is life for environment. That is behavior-based movement. That is, we have to change our lifestyle in order to accommodate and include all the living organisms, our traditional culture and how we have been worship the nature. And that's one of the examples we can put forward, that we are living with the environment inclusively with a diverse culture. France, UK and Argentina has already announced support to India in this global stage. India has also decided to establish a new disaster risk reduction. That's a new platform for G20 members to address the issues on climate change. So I think as a global leader, it's great for India to show its progress.
Like you were telling, when it comes to a problem within a country or problem outside countries, it refers to a global reaction immediately. When it comes to the problem of Ukraine and Russia, every country in the world was in a way affected. India has been proactively engaging and appealing for peace and calm. In this scenario, not only controversies but also disease, the health issues which are affecting the developing countries are also in a way affecting the economy and affecting the growth of a country. So what do you think will be the solution to all these issues when it comes to affecting a common person living in the world?
I'm Setu Lakshmi. I feel like the most common challenges faced all over the world is with the recent happening of the Russia-Ukraine war. And I think India, as the current presidency of G20, can play a role in it. And there are various reasons why India could be regarded as a best mediator, because as India is a neutral player and also the leader of Global South, and it also has good relations with Moscow and the West, and the geopolitical aspirations, the successful diplomatic involvement earlier. I guess with all these reasons, I feel like India can play a role in it.
Green transition is indeed a major agenda right now for India as a whole and the region, because the Ukraine-Russia crisis made us all realize how much we relied so much on these fossil fuels and how much we should actually be self-dependent, that we should actually transition more to green energy, to clean fuel. And that is indeed one of the major priorities that we should be having, and India is having, and can promote it through this presidency that it has.
Students have put in their opinions and their suggestions and what they know about G20 and how it is going to help us in many ways. So let's hear from the Assistant Professor of International Studies.
My name is Karishma Angela Vincent. I am Assistant Professor, International Studies Department from the Women's Christian College. I would like to conclude by giving the importance to the most important challenge which not only India as the leader but most of the G20 countries are facing, which is to deal with women empowerment and women's development. Because as we speak about social inclusivity and when we speak about social security and climate change and health issues, food shortages, the direct recipients of these challenges or the bearers of these challenges unfortunately zeroes down to women and children the most. And unfortunately, again, India is also dealing as a legacy or as an, a century related issue of women's empowerment issues and developmental issues related to women. If I need to give an example from the recent COVID pandemic crisis, if we can take the example of poverty, we can take the example of health negligence. The brunt is always faced by a woman more, be it at home, be it in her workplace. If we have to take food shortage, for example, a woman is made to compromise first. If we take health negligence, for example, a woman's health, which is to be prioritized more, will be compromised first. And a woman's priorities are always, rotating around her family, her kith and kin, and she becomes the last priority to herself and for the people around her. And this is not the condition only with India, but most of the other global south countries, and even unfortunately with the developing countries also, because the representation of women is not the women who are out on the media or trying to take the lead, because representation starts from within, and every woman is a contributing member, whether in the workforce or at home. And India being a torchbearer of women's empowerment, because we have had enormous women leaders who have led the way forward for us, and that we worship nature. In India, there is a tradition to embody women as goddesses, to respect them at most. And I think this culture of ours should not remain as an indigenous culture to our country alone, but should be taken at a global level. And in countries where women's liberation and women's development is prime most challenge which the country faces, I genuinely hope and I would endorse for the fact that global organizations such as G20 should take up these issues, which is not actually women's rights, but it's human rights when it comes to, the basic safety measures and right to education, right to health, right to privacy of women, where women have to literally lose on their lives in protest. And for what were they protesting? Just for their basic human rights. So I feel that when we are speaking about high-level developmental issues, the need to address the bottom line shouldn't fade away.
We have come to the end of the program, and we have discussed about all the aspects which the developing countries and the developed countries are facing, and how India is taking a proactive measure in solving issues and being a bridge to both these countries, also taking into account its own development. We have talked about economy, health, education, unemployment, women's security, and a lot of aspects which affect the growth of a country. Let's hope India's presidency in G20 will not only help the country but also the other countries and be global leader. Thank you, listeners.
You were listening to the second part of Interaction with Students of Women's Christian College on G20.